Who is Chris? I am a recent uncle, which is super exciting. But outside of that, I guess you could say I'm an entrepreneur, but I feel like that term is like kind of overused. Like I run my own company. I started my own company,
Mm.
and it's still alive. So I guess you could say I'm a successful entrepreneur at the end of 2020.
Yeah.
I think 2020 was
That's
the
a
test for a lot of quote unquote entrepreneurs or founders.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for real. I get that. So I was reading your story and I absolutely love it. So you spent some time in Costa Rica doing some work. So what happened there? What was there was some kind of a realization that happened, some kind of like an epiphany that really turned things around.
Yeah, so back in 2017, I started a recruitment firm called Captivate Talent and wanted to be a little bit different and kind of lead with a more human approach and care about candidate experience and be super transparent. I wanted to feel like good about how we did business. And for a couple months, it was just me by myself, and I kind of played around with like what do I want in the future? And I spent 2 weeks at the 2.5 weeks at the end of the year in Costa Rica because I had a pretty successful first couple months of business. And I kind of sat there and thought, well, I can do this forever, which is pretty cool. I can work for wherever I want and be wherever I want and don't have to worry about anyone but me. But I think at the end of the day, that might get a little old. And for me, always growing and always changing and evolving is super important because it's just how my brain works. And if something's not new and changing and challenging, I can get kind of bored of it really quickly. So um, when I came back, I made the decision that I actually want to build a real company and kind of grow and have that be my path and my challenge because I felt like there was reward in that growth
Hmm. And
beyond just financial.
yeah, and so when you came back, what were the biggest changes that you started implementing?
So I was pretty good with saving money before that. I was just cautious. I knew I was starting a business and there might not be a paycheck every month and all that kind of stuff. But then when I got back, I got really cautious. Um, I knew to hire people, there was one or two ways to do it. I can go get a loan somewhere or an investor or an investment, or I could just be old school and make some money, save some money, and then hire somebody that way. So the biggest change was probably a financial one where there were no more trips to Costa Rica booked in the near future.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and then the other one was I actually started working harder because I knew I was then going to be responsible and liable for somebody else's well-being and
Mm.
security.
Yeah.
Because if I hired somebody and then all of a sudden couldn't make payroll, um, that was going to really put somebody else in a really awkward space. So it wasn't just about me anymore.
So you spoke about leadership a little bit when I was reading your story, and in our world, I guess in our space, it's curse of knowledge. I guess to us, it seems it comes natural that the better my employees do, the better off I will be. Pretty much that, and not just with employees, but in general, right? The better my family does, the better I will do. The better my employees does, then the better I will do. But that thing seems to be lost on some people for some reason. Like I know when I was working corporate, I had a manager that acted like that. The better he is, then the better he will be, and just moved us moved us over to
Moved
the
you kind of through the motions. Yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah, just left us aside and be like, yeah, don't bother me. But anyway, so give us a picture of how you changed as a leader and how did that impact your business and your organization and your interactions with your employees and people in general.
Oh, I think in the past, especially in that corporate setting, it was all about messaging somebody else's directive. So there was
Mm.
kind of like you could do that in your own style a little bit, but the lane was pretty tight that you had to work in when you're messaging someone else's directive or actions to your team or whatever it might have been.
Mm.
But realizing that it was kind of like when I hired my first person, I was like, ooh, like safety's off. Like there's no training wheels right now. Like my decision is their decision. It's the company's decision. Um, so, it wasn't, I was hiring somebody to work for me. It actually felt almost like the other way around. Like I was hiring people and now all of a sudden I was responsible and I was working for them.
Mm.
Like, I joke around like, ooh, the bosses were tough today. And like, it's my team. Like they're kind of my boss just as much as I'm their boss.
Mm. No, that's
Um,
yeah, that's a one way to put it. I never heard that before. They're my boss as much as I'm. Wow. Okay,
but
that's
but
nice.
but it is because
It is, yeah.
that old mentality, it is true. Like the better they do, the better it is for me, which is
Hmm.
kind of a selfish way to look at it. But I want to see them be successful because
Hmm.
success
Yeah,
breeds more success. So if they are
exactly.
successful by design, they will take care of clients better,
Yeah,
and then I hopefully will be more successful too.
yeah, yeah.
So like people don't get that a lot. I feel like
Oh yeah.
they miss that one.
Yeah. So you're still doing you're still you're doing Captivate Talent, hey?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I did see that on your
We made
website.
it through 2020. Knock on wood. I think we got 3 weeks
Go
left.
on.
So.
Yeah. So what was the biggest way that you had to adapt this year? That's this year is very different.
Ooh. Yeah. So in the Captivate Talent, we're a recruiting company. We focus on placing revenue professionals for early and growth stage technology companies. So
Mm.
like SaaS startups, cool tech companies, that kind of stuff. So we went from a time period in recruiting where it was just good. Things were great. And I knew coming into this business that bad was going to happen again because I was around in recruiting for the last recession. So I was, nobody was ready for it, but like I knew it was going to happen. And my biggest concern was there was this whole generation of a workforce out there that never saw bad. They only saw good. So anyone who was, joined the workforce post like 2011, 2012, they just saw
Mm.
this rise of an economy that just kept on
Mm.
going up, 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 up. And they never saw what it was like when there were a couple million people unemployed and the unemployment rate was 6, 7, 8%. And Ford stock was $1 at one point and the airlines might go bust. So that was like the first true test. And it was like the first week of March in 2020 or second week. And it was, it felt like a day. And it was the day where the news was on in everyone's house all the time and everyone was home all of a sudden. And there were some people like their office were still open. We were closed and you're trying to figure that out. I just looked at my team and I went, all right, it's going to suck for a little while. Like it's going to be tough. And it was a really scary moment from a leadership perspective because, everyone had to work remotely all of a sudden. That was pretty easy for us. We were a small, scrappy team and, we were flexible. But not only was it everyone had to work remotely, but there was a global pandemic going around, and New York City, where we are, was the epicenter of that. So, I had team members in like small little apartments that couldn't leave, and that mentally isn't good for your well-being. So, you had to go from I'm managing their day to all of a sudden I have to make sure these people as humans are okay.
Mm.
Like it's not like how's your week going for work, it's how are you, and that had to change very quickly, almost immediately. um, and then the other thing was the phone stopped ringing.
Mm.
So we had this growth period the first couple of years of Captivate Talent that was just the challenging part of it was running a business and figuring that out. It wasn't doing the job and the functions of our business, which was recruiting, because the market was very good. And then all of a sudden it stopped,
Mm.
like almost all at once too. That's what it felt like. There was a week where every client almost called us back and was like, hey, we can't keep going, we're done, we got to pause this, we can't make that offer, we actually have to fire this person we hired a few weeks ago through you, we need a
Mm.
refund. All those things kind of happened at once, and that was kind of like the triple threat, like remote working, global pandemic, business stops. How the hell do we get through this?
Mm.
So we changed our business a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
um yeah.
Cool.
We we just became more of a we actually it actually allowed us to be the company we always were and that be more apparent. Like we were actually allowed to play off of our strengths which were being really transparent, being human, putting positive kind of energy out there into the LinkedIn and the social networks that were out there. And it worked because it gave us a purpose.
Yeah.
And it gave us like kind of a drum beat to march to. Like, let's just embrace the suck and let's get through it and let's try to help people. We're probably not going to make money right now, and that's going to be okay for a certain amount of time. And I always told my team, listen, I know we're a startup, but we have enough money in the bank for a okay amount of time.
That's good.
That will run out eventually, but it's going to be okay. If we don't make money tomorrow, it's not like we have to go out of business and you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
And I made the decision too during the pandemic to keep the team together because I didn't think it was fair just to start picking people off to save other people right away. It was either kind of all or nothing to get through it.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I love that. It's like it's clear that you have a stand for transparency and integrity and taking care of everyone as best as you can. So it's amazing. So you personally, what's your biggest lesson and during this time?
Be a real human. Try not to suck. It's funny because I find myself saying that more, but it's true. If you just try to be a really good person and put that positive mindset out there in everything you do, and including business, I think fundamentally, like karma does exist, and it will come back to you because people like to do things with people that are good. Inherently, people want to work with other people like that. So like, it's probably something not taught in school. It's probably the opposite. They teach you like it's all about bottom line. But bottom line doesn't get you through everything. It might save you for another day, but it's not going to keep your team together and keep people motivated to, work hard for you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. It's like you said, it's and sometimes it catches people off guard when you actually act like that. Like, oh, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. And when you actually trust that it'll be okay and you're out there acting like a human, it catches people off guard. I'm honestly quite fascinated by that because people are always so used to interacting with people that they're all on guard and no one's ever
Well, I think too, because you have to care about what you do and you have to enjoy it to a certain sense. And if you find something you care about and you enjoy, I mean, you don't have to love every second of every day of your job. Like that does not exist. Even the job you love still has your bad days. But if you enjoy it and you feel happy about what you do, you should be pushing that out when you interact with people and they feel that too. And they feel like they're working with somebody who's genuinely happy. And that's what they want to do. And someone who genuinely cares and is concerned about what they're doing. So whether it's a client, for us, it's candidates a lot, or whether it's your employees, like if you enjoy what you do to a certain sense, you walk in the office every day with that on your face. And again, there are plenty of mornings where I opened up Zoom and I was like, day 72, guys, what do you want to talk about? And my face maybe wasn't the happiest, but you really have to try, especially in front of your team and when things are tough, to keep that smile going.
Yeah, awesome.
Or just have a few drinks at night.
There's that. There's always that. So what's a question that you wish more people asked when it comes to leadership and when it comes to taking care of your team?
You know what? That's funny because people ask you more about like the business side of things, but they talk less about like how do you interact with your team day by day and like there are pros and cons to leading with like empathy. The pro is when you genuinely care about people, you usually get that in return. The con is sometimes you care too much and there is no return and you do get burned. And that's why maybe people stop doing it because they feel like that's happened to them. But you have to believe that if you do it, the good will outweigh the bad if you keep pushing it out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I'm like, yes, I'm at loss for words here. It's like that's awesome. You just have such a uh refreshing take on things. Like, um, I just love it. I love it, man.
But the world, it's crazy because it, again, is it a business strategy? It almost sounds wrong when it is, but like it pays to work with people you like, and people will always come back to you, and people like if you are a good person out there, you will have people that want to work with you as long as you do a good job for them. There is that backup and that follow through too that has to exist.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems backwards, just the way, I guess, just the way society is, and like you mentioned earlier, the way it is taught in schools. It just seems backwards that, okay, I gotta give in order to get more. In a way that sounds selfish, but it just sounds backwards that you gotta take care of others in order for them to take care of you. But why can't I just take care of myself and then you take care of me? It sounds backwards, but at the same time, it makes sense.
And I do think if you are giving to get in return, like that's kind of a eventually that catches up to you a bit, and people will catch that. Not always, but people could, in sales, people could smell a salesperson who's like not genuinely interested in what they do or what they want, and it catches up to you.
It does. Yeah. That's awesome. So what makes because like there are certain companies that just have a high turnover, and then there are certain companies where pretty much a huge percentage of their employees have been with them for 10 years, 20 years. So what makes people stay?
I think when they feel like they're taken care of. If when things get bad, like anybody could be the happy, fun leader when things are good. Like it's really easy to like pay for all these extras and happy hours and fringe benefits and team retreats. It's so easy to do that when things are good. I mean, I took my team skiing at the end of last year to a resort town, and it was expensive and it was good. It was fun, but it wasn't that hard of a decision to make because there was money there. Like we were doing really well, so let's have fun. But it's when things get bad, that's when people really see through and see what somebody's made out of. Like, just making the decision to like, ooh, things are going to be bad, let's lay off 50% of the people, and just like that. I think there's zero empathy there, and that makes everyone else look around the 50% that stayed and just go, well, that guy had a job yesterday, now he doesn't have a job today just because of financial decisions. So like, why the hell am I going to stay here? Like, should I just be lucky and gracious and happy for someone who's not fighting for me? So I think you really have to fight for your people. Otherwise, like, why are you doing it? I mean, well, I know why other people do it. It's like an ego. I want to be a manager. I want to be a leader. But if you can't fight for your people and you're not the first one in kind of leading the charge, you're not a leader. You're just you're an administrator and an overseer.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So, Chris, I would like to acknowledge you for the stand that you are, for transparency, for integrity, empathy. You are an awesome human. It just says right there behind you, be human, and you are that. You treat people like human. So it's amazing. We acknowledge
I
you
didn't
for
plan
that.
to do this from my office today, but I guess that's not a bad backdrop sometimes.
Not at all.
But yeah, those are actually our company values there, and
Nice.
and they just make sense to do. And I don't know, they're not the most creative thing in the world. And to be totally honest, I ripped Be Human off of an old CEO I worked for, Glenn Elliott. I did ask him for permission, and he said all great artists are inspired by something. So he did definitely inspire me to run my company every day with that Be Human approach.
Awesome. That's great. So what's the best way our listeners could get in touch with you?
Best way where, well, it's probably where I am the most. And as a recruiter, that is LinkedIn. Or our website, which links to our LinkedIn. So our website's captivatetalent.com. We were fortunate enough to have that domain name.
Nice.
And my LinkedIn, I think if you just plug in my name, and I have a good amount of connections, so there's a chance that we could connect on LinkedIn. If you just plug in Christopher Gannon on LinkedIn, I'm the guy in the green shirt that's trying to smile in my picture. Kind of like that half smile, like it was definitely a forced one.
Yeah. All right. We'll have all of this in the show notes. Again, Chris, thank you so much for being the stand that you are. It's amazing and it's refreshing to see.
Judith, thank you so much for your time today too, and I appreciate you having me on.